Welcome, Spartans, to Halo TV Plus, part of Evolved, your home for Halo. I am your host, Oren, and on Halo TV Plus, my guests and I recap Halo's original television show, Halo the Series, and we discuss its contents and unique canon within the Silver Timeline. Joining me tonight for some Season 3 predictions are Tom.
Hello!
And Steve.
I'm escaping the flood infection. Please help.
Yeah, you are. Welcome to the show, guys. Welcome back. How are you feeling?
Excited to reflect on this season, I think, and give some predictions.
Yeah, we can do some crazy brainstorming for Season 3 after the way Season 2 ended.
Yeah. So, Tom, you were on episode 7.
Yes.
And Steve, you did the Season 2 recap episode with us, right?
I did the recap, and I was on 3 or 4. I forget which number it was. It was early
I think
on.
you were on 3. I think you're on Visegrad, because David was 4.
Yeah, I think it was 3 as well. It was definitely Visegrad.
So I know, Tom, I know you binged pretty much the show in preparation for our show and then watched the finale the following week. Have either of you rewatched any of the episodes of Season 2 since the show aired on, what was that, the 21st or something of March?
I am going to be honest, I went from Halo straight into binging Fallout, and that's the only television I've watched.
Okay. No, I respect that. I've yet to watch Fallout. I've actually never played a Fallout. Well, actually, that's not true. I've played Fallout Shelter.
Okay.
but that's the only Fallout game that I've played. I mean, I know what the game is.
I'm just going to let you know, Oren, that Fallout 4 and Fallout 76 are on Xbox Games Pass.
Oh, are they?
Also, if you have like Prime Gaming and Twitch, they'll give you 76 for free through Xbox or PC. You can pick a code for both.
Yeah, they're really... Did Halo
They want
do
us to
any
play
of that?
after doing the show. No, Halo didn't do squat. They gave us the helmets and some charms. Like, for Season 2, they gave us the helmets.
They did put them on sale. I think I remember them saying, like, in preparation for Season 2, all of the Halo games are on sale.
Which hits a little less when the most recent one is free to play for the multiplayer version anyway.
Yeah. But, I mean, you could play all of them for free on Game Pass. You just have to subscribe to Game Pass, much like 76 and Fallout 4.
Podcast Evolved, now sponsored by Xbox Games Pass.
Yeah.
Get your $1 membership code just by checking, because they run that deal all the time.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the deal to get you in the ecosystem.
Yeah, it's like new members get to sign up for like $1 a month for the first 1 to 3 months, depending on when you catch the promotion. I see it cycle once in a while.
Yeah. I just resubscribed because I wanted to play Master Chief Collection online, and I was like, my membership lapsed. I guess I need to re-up it, because I would play either Infinite, Diablo, or Diablo, and like you don't need live to play those games. So
they wouldn't let you know when your membership was up. You'd just still be able to keep playing.
Yeah. Well, it's good. It's a good time to be a gamer. And let's talk about some Season 3 stuff. I'll do some housekeeping. Listeners, don't forget that Halo TV Plus has a commentary and an analysis episode to accompany each episode of the TV show. So if you haven't listened to those after watching the TV episode, you can go back and listen to them on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts on your devices. Halo TV Plus is part of Evolved that hosts a variety of other Halo podcasts shows like Podcast Evolved, HCS Pro Talk, Mission Debrief, Builds with Blocks, and Halo Book Club. And we have a website, haloevolved.co or halopodcast.com, that has all of those shows with descriptions, some lore pages, and other content that you can get from the website. Our podcast kind of network also hosts a Patreon exclusive podcast called I Would Have Been Your Podcast for our subscribed patrons. If you're not a patron and you want to learn more, you can head over to patreon.com/HaloEvolved to learn more. Patrons receive a variety of exclusive rewards, such as early episodes, access to our 18-song soundtrack, unique swag, access to a private Discord channel, and more. So there's a lot of content there for you guys. Shout out to all of our subscribers. Thank you guys so much for subscribing.
You.
It's huge. It's great. and it keeps us doing what we love doing, which is to talk about Halo.
Keeps the lights on, baby.
Yeah.
So to kind of kick off this discussion of what to expect from Season 3, the first question you might have is, well, Oren, is there going to be a Season 3?
That's a great question.
I believe, Tom, you even asked this, was like, why haven't they had an official announcement
Where's
yet?
the announcement, right?
That's right. We technically do not have an official announcement from Paramount, or CBS. Is that the parent company?
Yeah.
However, in the last Silver Debriefings blog post that went out when Halo was released, there's a Halo title for like every bit of Halo medium out there, but for the last episode of Season 2 called Halo, Alex Waitford in his blog had a section for Kiki Wolfkill, and it was called Farewell from Kiki Wolfkill, and it was just kind of thanking the fans, but she did say, "Oh, what a journey this has been. It's hard to believe that a wrap on Season 2. As we take a breather to what lies ahead in the future for a Season 3, I want to take a moment to thank you, our fans, our audience, for this crazy adventure with us," and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's going to be a Season 3. I think the ratings for Season 2 were better than Season 1 from what I was reading. I don't think I read like an official thing, but from just the general internet grumblings, it sounded like Season 2 was performing better.
I generally didn't see too many people saying they thought Season 2 was worse than 1 or equal to 1. Like, I saw most of the talk online was, yeah, Season 2 is a lot better.
Yeah.
Obviously when they created whatever story they wanted to tell, they had, because they said this from the get-go, that they have kind of an overarching plan of like, points to hit, bullet points, and I guess events to hit, and then each season they kind of just bridge bullet point to bullet point, and we kind of get what we get. So see, they're finally on the ring, which is what Halo is kind of all about. So it would make sense that they would at least get a Season 3 to show us what they're gonna do. Like, it'd be pretty terrible if they just cancel the show right now.
So I do think there's an interesting discussion point here, which is back in January of last year, Kiki updated her LinkedIn to say that she had left 343 and she had gone back into another leadership role at Microsoft. So part of me is really curious as to whether part of her leaving was to oversee the 2 seasons, because we know that they were kind of commissioned together, and whether she will have such a role in the future, or whether it's so up in the air because it might be other people at 343 now taking on that role. I'm just quite curious to see what the future of the show, if there is a future of the show, is going to look like from that perspective. Because I think it's quite interesting, having the blog post saying farewell to her in that capacity when you think about that job change as well, right? I'm just curious as to whether she will still be involved in the production, or whether these 2 seasons were her baby and now somebody else is coming next.
Don't we know her newer position in Microsoft is like in control of media projects like these? Wasn't that the change that was made?
I think so,
directly
yeah.
It's like for Microsoft IPs. So I think instead of it being exclusively for Halo, like if they were to make a Sea of Thieves TV show or some sort of experience like Outpost Discovery for another IP, I think she would be the facilitator of that.
Or if their contracts with Paramount were like, hey, if Halo does good, let's make other shows about games you guys make.
Yeah. But I'm curious as to whether that new capacity would be so hands-on, or as to whether she'll be like overseeing all of it, right? And you'll have somebody else who becomes that on-the-ground person, giving them all of that like lore insight and everything, because that seemed to be a lot of what she was doing with this show.
Yeah, I feel like she would probably hold kind of like a Kevin Feige sort of producer credit, to where he's involved with every Marvel movie, but is he on set every day? I doubt it.
Just a through line to connect everything.
So she'll probably do that capacity to where someone else will effectively replace her and be the on-set sort of executive producer and kind of be just under her. in that capacity. And then I think they also had like 2 or 3 like lore masters that were like also just on set. And they like helped with like the pre-production and the creative side of it as well.
That was probably just season 2.
Yeah.
What could you be implying, Steve?
Where were they on season 1?
They were actually all on holiday at the same time with season 1.
They were all playing Halo Infinite, guys.
Yeah.
At least somebody was. Oof.
So that's pretty much all we know, officially, unofficially about season 3. It's basically confirmed without an official announcement. So
yeah,
I expect we'd get that soon because they would want to start filming it relatively soon. So then they can have it out either next year or the first quarter of 2026, much like this show was.
Yeah, I mean, it was really just the strike that dragged us out this long between the first 2 seasons. I can't see that happening again.
Well, I don't want to be an alarmist, but there could be another strike around the corner this summer.
Oh!
Yes, and from some industry talk I'm hearing, that might mean that productions move where they're working on production. So there could be a lot of disruption as a result of that.
Yeah, I don't want to get too into the weeds, but basically the IATSE National here in the US, which is like your grips, your electrics, your props, special effects, medics, like the kind of larger workforce of the set. Their contract negotiation is happening this summer. And it's actually already started right now, but the deadline is I think the end of July. And 3 years ago, they were doing their contract negotiation and they almost went into a strike. They literally like had like an extension for like a week or 2, and they had to reach a deal by like midnight of whatever day it was. And like literally the news dropped at like 11:30 that night. Like California time, that they reached an agreement. So like it was super close. So I think that doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be a strike this time, and we just suffered through a 6-month strike for the industry. But I think the negotiators and the stirring committees and stuff are just kind of using the momentum of what just happened as kind of an additive angle to get the things that they want to and stuff. So
it's an opportunity, isn't it?
Yeah, so we'll see what that becomes. I mean, definitely I haven't been looking too much into it because a lot of the stuff happening right now is a lot of closed doors. But like once like June comes around and July, you'll start hearing headlines and stuff. And I don't want us to strike, because I want to keep working. It's not my union, so I'm not really privy to the inner sort of things that they want. But, depending upon, whatever gains that the actors and the writers gained, I think they just want that to be reflected kind of across the industry. So,
yeah. But there's another angle to this. It could potentially factor into a 3rd season as well. And it's something I touched on before we started recording, which is there has been some talk. So I looked it up before the show, and it's a New York Times report that apparently Sony Pictures Entertainment is in talks with Apollo Global Management to team up for a joint bid on the acquisition of Paramount. So obviously that poses a really interesting question, because can we imagine a universe where Sony Entertainment is giving us a Halo show?
It's almost as wild as playing Halo on a PlayStation with Game Pass.
Yeah.
And I think and you could play Halo with a PlayStation controller, and people are like, I feel like I'm breaking the laws of gaming reality.
So, interesting little tidbit about that. I'm used to playing Halo on a PlayStation controller because my first game was Halo CE, but I also played it on PC back when it came out, and I played with a Logitech controller that was laid out like a PlayStation controller. I couldn't find a USB Xbox style controller at the time, so I'm used to both thumbsticks being next to each other back then.
You're an OG PlayStation Halo fan.
Yeah, you could say that.
Nice.
Played it on the Mac too. with the PlayStation controller.
Wow,
If you
there
really
we
want to
go.
break your brain.
The full
Oh my
experience.
You might be the only one.
Steve, I think you should be in the Halo Museum.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dust me too much and I'll just blow away.
But yeah, so we'll keep our ear to the ground and report to you guys on what we hear and go from there. So, shall we talk about the show?
Let's do
Please,
it.
let's.
So to kind of recap briefly what happened at the end of season 2, we have Miranda on Onyx, and she put Halsey in cryo, and then we have Soren, Ackerson,
Quan.
what's her name, Quan, and Kessler, presumably leaving Onyx because they all get in that ship. Farangoski's dead or becoming a grave mind, one of the two. Liara is being consumed by the flood. And Kai is TBD. And what's her name?
Perez is like on a ship just chilling. One of her squad mates is there.
Yeah, she's in critical condition.
I think it was the squad mate that was worried about dying too, is like there with her at the end when she's the one laying on the table.
Oh, yeah. Then you have Chief or Cortana. They're on the ring with McKee. Chief just killed the Arbiter in a glorious battle. And you have a Monitor on the ring.
We're finally on a Halo in the Halo TV show.
Yes.
Just appreciate it.
Well, we're finally actually on it because we've only like teased it by these like vision quests.
I don't count those trippy boy hallucinations.
I feel like they missed a product placement for the Apple Vision Pro with those hallucinations.
I don't think it was a thing in season 1.
No.
Or a Facebook quest.
Chief would have to be required to have a Facebook account at that point to have the quest.
Yeah, so I'll just open it to floor, whichever one of you wants to go. But like, so where would you guys want to go from here, or where do you think we're gonna go from here? We can play both angles. We can kind of say what we want versus what we think's more likely to happen. It's kind of how I feel. Like if I was writing the show, this is what I would do. But using their track record, I have a feeling they're gonna do something else. But yeah, how would you guys? What do you guys think? Season 3, episode 1.
Well, let's pick a character to start with.
Well, pick one. Who do you want to talk about?
Let's talk Kai.
Okay.
Because there's a couple ways Kai could go. I'm thinking we get a little bit of June out of this, where it's like, just gets pulled out of floating in space like a badass and goes to do some more Spartan training shit.
Okay.
I don't know. What do you guys feel about that?
I mean, I need Kai to come back, actually. It's not a want. It's like, the show will suffer if Kai does not come back, I think. And I feel like, Tom, you would agree with me, because I think not Kathleen Kennedy, but Kate Kennedy is like one of your favorite characters.
Yeah, I think that Kai... I don't know, to be honest. I kind of feel like she might be getting the Linda treatment, which is maybe a Spartan who's critically injured, but comes back at a later point when Chief really needs her. So I could see them doing something where, like, say the start of season 3... McKee is getting closer and closer to firing the ring, and Chief realizes that he can't stop her alone, and then like Kai comes out of cryo or something. I just feel like that's the kind of convenient storytelling that this show would rely on.
Well, I don't know, because if she gets critically injured and goes in cryo, she's still going to be critically injured when she comes out of cryo.
Yeah. Oh, Steve, I've missed an important detail. She'll be critically injured, right? And she'll go into cryo being critically injured. While she's in cryo, they'll find a magical cure for Halsey, and she'll come out of cryo and Halsey will save her.
Uh-oh. You said the trigger word for Steve.
Oh yeah, no, you can't use the C word. You just broke the entire plot of the whole franchise.
It's what's gonna happen, Steve. It's what's gonna happen.
No, I'm still of the mind that you know what? I think Halsey's a clone. That's why she was so dumb last season. We don't need a cure because it's not really Halsey. Screw that clone. Let the clone die. Miranda, you're dumb. That's not your mom. Real Halsey's out there doing more crazy Halsey shit.
What if we just kill off Halsey? Let's just think about that for a minute. What if, like, the show really goes down the road of, like, Miranda trying to find a cure, and it stays true to the lore where there is no cure, and she tries to revive Halsey, and we just lose Halsey. Really, what does Halsey do in like current Halo? Like she has all the stuff that she does for the Spartan program, but then she's kind of just a thorn in the UNSC's side, like most of the lore. Like,
hasn't she
really
done a lot of development of like forerunner to human tech type shit? Like even if she's not the lead scientist, like making stuff, she's still out there. She's still studying all of the objects. You know, she has more forerunner based knowledge than probably most other scientists, even the ones that have been studying forerunner shit for Oni the second they've been able to assign a secret team to it.
I'm just trying to think what they would use her in the show for, and I guess it would just be to analyze forerunner stuff, which is what she was doing kind of in season 1.
Yeah. It's an interesting one.
And, like, she doesn't know enough about them in the show.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see her getting abducted by Julam Dama in the Halo TV show, you know?
Which is why we needed to get her arm cut off from the flood.
I reckon they're going to do an entirely different story, and I reckon instead of getting abducted by Julam Dama, she'll get abducted by the Banished.
Okay.
I think they're melding so many things together at this point, right? That I feel like they won't do the Storm as a faction. They'll just go straight to the Banished being the next bad faction. Because from my sort of interpretation of it at this point is Maquis is so separate from the Covenant that I almost feel like the Covenant are just out there doing their own thing now. Like it really doesn't feel like her and the Arbiter were connected to the Prophets and everything else that's going on whatsoever.
No. No, but we have the Covenant right on their ass at the end of season 2, and they're getting on the ring.
The Covenant found their way.
Control of the ring.
Yeah. Here's what I think about the Banished. I feel like it might be a little confusing to introduce the Banished without introducing like the Great Schism and getting into all the like internal politics of the Covenant. What if the Banished is just like a subsect of the Covenant, and it's so like that way, like for the sake of the TV show, they dumb it down, which is something they've definitely done, and then you just have like a bunch of brutes, and like a brute-led faction is like the antagonistic force behind season 3 and maybe season 4.
Oh, the brute from the season 1 finale is 100% still alive. It's just how it works in this show.
Yeah. And people are like, oh, well, when you put on the subtitles, it says Atriox growls. So it's like, okay, so Atriox, I guess, exists in the show.
Yeah.
But because they retconned almost everything else in season 1, who knows what they're going to do. But yeah, like I feel like there's an angle there, but I do think to some degree you're going to have Covenant versus UNSC sort of like infighting, and not infighting, but like just conflicts on the ring, much like CE, much like Halo 2 and Infinite and Halo Wars.
Okay, so if we're talking on the ring, here's a question then. Do we think there's Flood on the Halo ring that John and Maquis are on? Because the Flood encounter that we have right now is on Onyx. We haven't seen them on the Halo ring. John hasn't seen the Flood yet.
So my whole perspective on that is I think that they've deliberately started the outbreak elsewhere. So I think what you're going to get is like a story in terms of the Flood outbreak portion of the story where there's something on the ring other than the firing of the ring, because obviously that's the worst case scenario, but there's something that they can do with the ring to help with stopping the outbreak. And I think you'll have like a parallel story of John and some of the other UNSC characters on the ring trying to do that, while you then have some of the other characters dealing with the fact that this outbreak is spreading through the galaxy.
How quickly do we see the Flood getting off of Onyx and spreading if that happens? Do we think that happens? Do we think it happens right away? Is it a slow burn?
I've thought about kind of what I want Chief to kind of be doing on the ring if he's not fighting the Flood. And something that I kind of thought about and came up with is he kind of utilizes the terminals and sort of gets a peek into what the Forerunner Flood War was. So then he kind of understands the gravity of the Flood threat, and I can see either him leaving the ring to go back to Onyx to then fight the Flood, so then they do that, or we do like a Halo 3 thing where the Flood get control of a ship and they crash landed on Earth, or in this case, they crash landed on the ring. So then now you're still on the ring. The flood threat is on the ring, and the characters and the audience understand the threat of the Flood based off of the terminals and everything that John has learned with the monitor. And I think that's kind of how the latter half of the season will unfold. Or that's what I guess that what I kind of would want. Like, I would kind of go in that direction, I guess.
All right. John just gets an exposition dump, and that's how him and the audience get clarified on the Flood.
Yeah. If I had an endless budget, I would just give an episode dedicated to like flashbacks to the Forerunner and Flood War, and just build that up, and then he can be like a walking, that kind of like scene where like you're in like a holodeck in Star Trek, and your character's just walking through this period flashback scene. And then a monitor could be floating there.
Or like in Infinite when Chief is walking around and seeing all the different holograms of bits of his life.
Yeah. Or of Cortana and Atriox in that matter. So yeah, I think that could be an interesting way to give exposition that's still actiony and entertaining, and then it just kind of fills.
That'd be a good episode one.
Instead of Cortana just saying, "Do you know what this is? This ring kills blood." Like, as great as that moment is in the game, like I feel like in a TV show, like if you're able to show, especially we've gotten some really cool terminals over the years in the games. I feel like, and like that translates very well in the film. So
I think you make a really interesting point where you reference budget, because I think that is something that the third season's going to have to grapple with, right? Is if you're doing the Forerunner architecture, you're doing a lot of the kind of staples of the ring, you're going to have to lean into a lot of CGI that will burn through the budget quickly. And we already know that season 2, they didn't get to do as much of Reach as they wanted to because of the budget. So I'm really curious as to how they're going to pick environments on the ring that allow them to make the most of the budget they've got. Just
I swear to God, if we only spend one episode on the ring in the next season.
I just think it's going to be a real challenge for them.
But I think, so like they talked a little bit about this, I think, in one of the behind the scenes for the last episode. They filmed in like Iceland or somewhere.
Yeah.
And they just kind of composited some of the elements in the background. But I think for like interiors and stuff, like if you look at the Rubble set, like it's a massive set that they built in some warehouse in Budapest. And even the scene in Reach, like downtown Reach, I guess, or that shopping district where the Covenant first attack and Perez is like, "What are you doing? We're under attack." like that whole area was like practically built. So like I feel like if they have those resources, they can put that money and resources into building some pretty cool Forerunner interior things, and then maybe they do like a digital background that kind of like duplicates and extends it so it looks like it's going on at infinity, because like it just keeps going in the Forerunner world. So like I think they might be able to manage. Yeah, like I feel like those are some tricks that I think they could use that they've already used in the show. I feel like in the case of Reach, like just the pure destruction and the CGI of the Covenants, I feel like those were some of the restrictions that like the showrunners and Kiki had to kind of deal with to kind of keep the fall of Reach into one episode. So I don't think we're gonna get like Halo Wars level conflict on the ring between the Covenant and the UNSC, because that's not quite realistic. But I feel like the environments though is much more is more easily what's the word I'm looking for? It seems like that's a little bit more in their realm of capabilities than like some of the more actiony sort of scenes, because they've already made some pretty great environments in these otherworldly type of places.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. You mentioned Perez in that as well during the Fall of Reach, and I know we've touched on her a little bit already, but I'm really interested as to what her story is going to be in the third season, because I think if they take elements from Halo Infinite, right, where you have like Marines that are spread out across the ring and just trying to fight to survive, then there's potentially a really interesting human story to tell with her, any of the other SPIs, and then Marines that make it onto the planet. So I'm curious as to what you guys think that wider UNSC story is going to be, given that a lot of the characters who perhaps would have been a part of that are gone now.
Well, first of all, I'm just wondering where her ship is going right now, because we see her on some sort of ship with a couple of people, like a tech, another SPI, Spartan, whatever you want to call them. So, like, they're on a ship, but we don't know if they're going to the ring, or are they going back to some sort of other base on another planet. Like, we don't know what they're up to at this particular moment.
I think it would be really, really cool. You could just have, like, her ship getting attacked and then they crash land on the ring or something like that, or
yeah,
you can kind of make some peril. But, like, yeah, I think it would be really cool, and you can cut between the conflict. I think I was talking with we were talking about this a little bit on our season 2 recap, is that, you know, how much of the show of season 3 will be on the ring, because so much of this show is cutting between all these different characters. And so if you have Perez and her group of people on a different part of the ring, and you get, like you said, Tom, like a Halo Infinite moment where you have these sort of pockets of, or even in CE this happens, like you literally rescue Marines that crash land on the ring. Like, you can have these characters fighting their own section, or, you know, doing their own survival. I would really love that. I didn't think of that, but I think Perez is a perfect candidate for something like that.
Get a little bit of our novel moments happening in there, things that are going on while Chief is fighting his way deeper into the ring.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she could even fill some of the role that Silver fills in the initial novel, right? Which could be quite interesting, like seeing sort of Alpha Base getting set up in the TV show's version of that, and those kinds of things would be really awesome.
Yeah.
I'm curious as well, what do you guys think in terms of the broader strokes here of the story with the Flood and the Covenant as different aspects, right? Because traditionally in core canon, when the Flood becomes a threat, you get the sort of separatist group of the Covenant who then join the humans to fight back against the Flood. But with the Arbiter gone, do you think we still get the Great Schism? Do you think we get any of that Covenant civil war, or is that just off the table now entirely?
I think they've left us open, because while we had this previous Arbiter that Chief just killed off, you got to remember that while he's an Arbiter, the Covenant still has their whole regular regime and chain of command going on. So they're sending reinforcements to the ring at the end of season 2. They probably have like a proper fleet master whose whole thing is, okay, now you go bring this fleet and defend the ring, and then we can start our great journey, get the demon off the ring, yada yada. And because we know our main character has to succeed in some way or another, that means that fleet master will probably fail. So they're probably going to just feed us another Arbiter at some point.
Yeah.
Or at least the door is open. They have the out to be able to do that if they want to.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
I feel like the seeds haven't quite been planted yet to do the Great Schism. Not to say that they can't do it, but I feel like they need to kind of get into it. Something that I could see happen is kind of similar to what Steve was starting to say, where you have this fleet master and you have these loyal groups of Covenant that land on the ring and are there to fight. I could see a moment where Chief is kind of becomes that character that kind of the Arbiter was in Halo 2, that starts saying, hey, your great journey is actually everything dying. And maybe that sort of leads a separatist group that then pulls from that to then now he allies with some of the Covenant, and then now they both are fighting the Flood, and then this schism starts to unfold, and then maybe that's where you get a character like Atriox or even Tartarus for that matter, who's still super loyal, is like, no, we're doing the great journey because that's what the prophets are, so I need the index so that I can activate the ring. So I feel like there's a lot of things that they could play with to kind of do that. But I could see a world where they don't really do anything with the Great Schism, just because it is a little bit more complex, if they wanted to simplify the show and focus on some of the more other aspects.
They could hand wave it away pretty easily and still kind of give it to us. Like, the Halo and the Flood go hand in hand, right? And the Halo right now is a religious symbol for the Covenant. So all it takes at this point is the Covenant being properly introduced to the Flood, and then we're queued up for some sort of easy exposition where they find out, like, okay, the Halo was meant to kill everything to kill the Flood, and then that's what gives us our schism. Like, oh, the elites weren't down with that, and they broke off. It could be a 5-minute thing that the showrunners just throw at us real quick, easy, done, moving on. Elites aren't all our enemies now.
It'd be quite interesting to see them do it that quickly. But I could definitely see that, actually, so I'd be quite curious to see if that's how it plays out. I'm interested, do you guys think there's anything more to Marquis' story at this point as well? Because something that is playing on my mind, right, and this could be clutching at straws, but I do find it interesting that this character seemingly came back from the dead in the same series that introduces the Flood.
What you trying to say? Spit it out.
I mean, could she be corrupted somehow?
Do we think she's a Gravemind puppet? Is that what you're saying?
Potentially.
I have no idea how they would explain that.
I feel like we'd at least have to have some sort of visual cue to represent that she was different. Like, they couldn't just do that and not acknowledge it in any way whatsoever. I feel like they would have had to give us some sort of key that, even if it would had to be like something an eagle-eyed person would have to spot. You know what I mean? Like, a slight difference in her pupils or something, where we get one weird close-up shot of her eyes. Who knows? Like, they can't just, especially after the way they showed us the early stages of infection at the end of season 2. Like, they straight up showed us the different cycles of the infection pretty far in. So, like, for her to be walking around looking perfectly normal, I think it's a stretch, but
I think this is me longing for an explanation that we're not going to get as to how she's still alive.
I mean, I feel like it's unfortunately of a cop-out of just the Arbiter helping her and bringing her back. Like, I don't think there is some space magic MacGuffin that was there. But then
that brings us to our other point, though, is what's the deal with her ability to use or not use the artifact now?
Yeah. Unless it's that she was so close to death that she lost the ability.
Except for opening the door on the ring.
Unless you want to argue that, like the artifacts take a little bit more of a Blessed One's power, so to speak, to do this transcendent, like, mind-body sort of thing, as opposed to opening a door. Like, I don't know, or maybe, I mean, honestly, McKee and Chief are the only two people to interact with the light bridge or the door and all that kind of stuff. Maybe anyone can just do it. Like, and the artifact is what's the Blessed One sort of things. Like they could, you know, maybe if Perez is on the ring and she just holds up her hand, maybe she can open the door, and maybe they just kind of change that little detail to where anyone can interact with the Forerunner, sort of like machinery and stuff like that, and it's just the Blessed Ones who interact with the actual artifacts that have these deeper.
We need some clarification on the technology.
Yeah.
There's different user access levels. Chief is an admin.
Yeah. Yeah, his clearance is much higher than Perez and a Jackal.
Yeah, the Forerunners actually used Microsoft Azure.
Yeah.
Oh, that explains so much.
So, but I do think McKee is to kind of get back to your point, Tom. Like, McKee definitely has some grand scheme in season 3 that the writers are writing in. Like, and I don't really know what I want or what I think will happen, because it can kind of go in a bunch of different ways. Like, she could become the face of, like, a Tartarus or someone, or a Prophet of Regret that wants to activate the rings. She could be someone that Chief is able to then convince and then get on his own side, so to speak, and now she tells the Covenant to kind of band together. Like, I don't really think that's going to happen, but that's another way that can go. She could be killed, and she just believes that she needs to activate the ring. So, like, they can really utilize her in a bunch of different ways, and there's probably even, like, a few more lore appropriate things that I can't think of now, but yeah, there's a lot of different conflicts, but she will be some sort of hurdle that Chief has to navigate around to some degree. Like, she could be the equivalent of the Didact trying to leave Requiem to compose, maybe not, to that effect, but like she's that type of character, right? She's going to be some type of villain that will find a ways to an end on the ring to try to activate the ring or just have control of it. Because she even talked to Chief about having this sort of like God complex.
It's like the ring has been sitting there all this time without the threat of activation. We need that threat of activation.
Yeah.
She's the threat of activation.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry for rambling.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I'm interested as well. What do you guys think happens to Oni now? Because Parangoski's dead, but interestingly, in this timeline, we still have
Ackerson?
I'm forgetting. Yes, we still have Ackerson alive. So what do you think that's going to mean? And Oren, I'm sorry that I've just gone off on a random thing of throwing loads of questions at you.
Yeah, you're the host now, Tom. So I hope you're ready to close out the show at the end.
It's your job now, buddy.
Yeah, welcome to the seat. Here's the mic. Wait, what was the question? I already forgot. Oh, Oni. I kind of think Oni's going to take just a back seat from like a top brass point of view. Because like, I don't really see unless you want to like cut back to somewhere and there's Lord or Admiral Hood that survived Reach and like, oh, we're on the ring, like we need to send in platoons of ODSTs, and I don't know.
Well, not just the ring, because we also have what's going on in Onyx too. So you got to figure like, all right, Onyx is overrun by the Flood. The Oni base is overrun by the Flood. So somewhere out there has to be other Oni trying to just do their usual contacting. Hey, how's the battle for the ring going? And nobody's answering. So like they either have to send teams out or know that something is up, and then we wonder about the possibility of, does the Flood get off of Onyx? Does Oni have to start like establishing evacuation protocols or countermeasures or something against the Flood?
Okay, I'm pitching an episode to you right now, right here, live on the pod. Kiki Wolfkill, if you're listening, grab your notepad and a pen and paper because you're going to want to write this down. So we write that down. They lose contact with Onyx, so Lord Hood takes a frigate to investigate, and they deploy a squad of ODSTs, and you have an episode.
No, that's it. You said ODSTs were out.
Just like the Mona Lisa, where they're like in tight corridors investigating what's happened in this facility, and then they encounter the Flood, they're quickly overrun, and it ends with Lord Hood having to detonate a havoc on Onyx and destroy it. That would be like the sickest episode ever, to be like, yeah, they've contained this outbreak, but there's still other stuff out there. And then like you could get Miranda find out that that's happened and her think that her mum's dead because she doesn't know it's a clone. So that has an impact on her and whatever she's doing. I just think that could be really sick.
That would be amazing, except that means they would have to give us ODSTs in the show, and they just won't fucking do that.
I want my ODSTs!
I know, me too, damn it.
The Mona Lisa might be one of my favorite short stories. It's definitely my favorite audiobook. I don't know if you guys have ever listened to the audiobook of the Mona Lisa, but it is the best audiobook I've ever heard. Like, the narrator who does it just says it just so well, and like he kind of does a little bit of acting and just I don't know, it's great. So any sort of live action interpretation of the Mona Lisa, I'm all here for. So I don't know. I mean, it's definitely possible. Like if they wanted to kind of do that, I do think though, if they want us to care about Oni and kind of what they're doing, like we need a new character to kind of do that, because Parangoski and Ackerson were our two characters into the Oni brass. And so with, I could see Ackerson just kind of like not really wanting to be Oni brass anymore. Like I
could see him coming back as like wanting to not be a dick now. Like, oh man, I've
Yeah.
really seen the shit as an Oni senior official. Maybe I need to start trying to be the difference in Oni.
He had a kind of a weird character change, in my opinion. I kind of preferred him to be a little bit more of what he was in the beginning. So like I really don't know what direction they're bringing him with, but I could if Ackerson does somehow return to Oni Brass, then I guess he would be that character that we would then root for to kind of, maybe he's trying to now like, hey, we need to send Chief some reinforcements, or like there's people on the ring, and then I don't know, maybe he's getting opposition somewhere. Like I don't know, but yeah,
from Saren Osman.
From Saren Osman, yeah, maybe so. Yeah. That'd be something.
I think that could be cool. I think there's something in seeing Hood again, actually, because I completely forgot he appeared in season 1 until you mentioned it, which says a lot about how they just dropped that character completely, and I really feel like they should bring him back in some capacity.
Well, I mean, I don't know, I didn't really miss him, because he kind of had a very specific purpose.
He had a cameo.
Yeah, it was basically a cameo, but like, In season 1, it was like Halsey going down her like cloning thing, and Hood, and then was putting pressure on Parangoski. So then Parangoski is now having pressure with Halsey. So like that kind of dynamic, I kind of like.
He was literally just there to be Parangoski's principal.
Yeah, there's someone. If there's someone above your character, then like that just adds more attention. But if your character is in charge of everything, then it's like a different character dynamic, and like their stakes are different and stuff. So Hood kind of filled that purpose. Now, if Hood came back and kind of had more sort of obstacles that now Ackerson has to kind of go through, then that could be a good reason to kind of bring him back. But I don't know if I really want Hood to be a chief character that we kind of keep coming back to. But I mean, I don't know. They definitely could.
Yeah, I feel like there has to be something wider, right, about that outbreak on Onyx, because, Steve, to your point about people communicating with it, it's not as if that is just going to happen in isolation. There's going to be, like, resupply ships going to that base to resupply it. There's going to be patrols near there. So I think there is... yes, we're on the ring, and a lot of the characters that we follow are now in that proximity to the ring, but there is another story that's going to unfold as a consequence of what's happened on Onyx, and I think, to what you're saying as well, Aaron, they really need characters to drive that forward now, because a lot of the characters that we're invested in are already on or near the ring, so we almost need more characters to see the lens of things that are unfolding through, or whether that's what they end up doing with Soren and Ackerson and everyone else, and they're kind of just making their way through the galaxy as all of this stuff is happening. I don't know, but I definitely feel like you need to get a sense that that's not confined to just Onyx, or it kind of defeats the point of introducing it in the first place, I feel.
It's like Halo is a Master Chief show, but he's not the only character in it.
Yes, exactly.
We spent all of our time doing our killing off of characters during Season 2 because Reach needed to fall, Chief needed to end up on the ring by himself, but now we need to resupply all of our characters so we can have all these interesting side stories during the next season. And we need to have people that consequences can happen to without them happening to our super main characters. So we need more folks we have to kill off by the end of the season.
We need more cannon fodder.
Yeah. We need more Spartan 3s.
Yeah, I mean, here's a question to kind of go off of the characters now. I'm going to take a seat in the host category, Tom.
Welcome back. I'll jump out the way so you're not sitting on me.
We have a ship with Kessler, Ackerson, Quan, and Soren. Like, what are they doing? Like, do we think that they, like, what do we think that, like, what role that they fill? Like, are they going to try to go to the ring? Are they going to try to go back to the rubble? Are they going to actually not leave Onyx and stay on Onyx? Like that's an open door to so many possibilities, and that's the perfect sort of, like we were saying, cutting between Chief, so we have our other character stories.
Yeah, I think they'll probably get used to show more of the outbreak, so I think you might have them, like, leaving Onyx and trying to go and just get away from everything that's happened, but slowly they'll see that what has happened at Onyx is spreading, and they'll sort of be the characters that we experience that through, I think.
Because something that I'm trying to think about is like, if you remove them from Onyx, the only character that remains on Onyx, well, I guess to two characters, is Miranda and Halsey.
Only conscious character.
Yeah, the only conscious character. And so that's something that I've kind of just not really, like, I don't really know where Soren and Co. are going, but, like, the fact that they're leaving also makes me equally as unknown and confused as to what Miranda's going to be doing all alone.
Yeah. Oh, she just won't appear until halfway through season 3. She'll just appear randomly in, like, one of the later episodes again.
Yeah, we'll just wait till the second half of the season, and then she'll just be like, Eureka, I have a cure. Like, oh, she was just working on a cure the entire season.
I can feel Steve's blood boiling right now.
Our only hope is that the cure just makes it worse.
She gives Halsey the cure and she's like, Mum, you're back, and then she turns into a tank form and just demolishes her.
Yeah,
just immediately just starts bubbling and fizzing and hissing, and that'd be great.
I'm down for that.
But realistically, she's probably just gonna carve that chunk of skin out of her neck or something stupid.
Yeah, no, you're right. They should have just injected her in her arm. That would have just...
Yeah, and then just chop her arm off later. Quick, easy solution. We don't need a MacGuffin.
Yeah, well, we won't dwell on that.
We'll dwell on it when it comes up eventually, and they do something even worse than what we're predicting.
We'll dwell on it when it comes to season 3, and they're like, oh no, it wasn't flood at all. She just splashed some of a different chemical on her skin and it looked like the flood, but really she was okay. It was just a minor burn.
And remember to wear all of your lab safety equipment, everybody.
Yeah.
The screen just gets all gritty and it turns into an old PSA from like the 80s.
Yeah. All right. What about new characters? Is there anyone that hasn't appeared in the show that you think could be useful in this sort of in season 3 now that they're on the ring or fighting the flood?
I see so many comments about Johnson.
Yeah. I've talked about my opinions of Johnson on this show. I'm very hesitant to want him on the show because I just don't think they're gonna do him justice, and then everyone's just gonna be upset, and I kind of just don't want to deal with it.
I feel like they made Keyes an amalgamation of Keyes and Johnson.
Yeah,
like especially with the baseball hat. I feel like that was so on the nose that it was kind of quite overt.
And also just the position that they had him in where John was going to Keyes as like, hey, you know, you helped bring me up in the Spartan program, kind of sort of is what he was saying. And that we had Johnson there for him in the early Spartan program when Keyes wasn't there. So they gave him like Johnson's history, but Keyes' rank.
Yeah.
Well, wait, you mean, well, no, Keyes was always part of the early days.
Not
of the
always.
program.
He was there early on, and then he got sent off. He got sent away because he started learning too much. And then Johnson came around, and Johnson was there for like all of the Black Dagger stuff.
Okay. I see what you're saying. Listen, I think having some sort of superior military, like Marine character on the ring.
Palmer!
Yeah, a Palmer. Or just we have Perez. Just use Perez.
Yeah.
You know, I think you flash cloner some things. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like you have Perez being critically injured at the end of the season, and you have Kai who was critically injured at the end of last season. And Kai spent the whole second season kind of grappling with her injuries and wanting to, you know, didn't really want to keep pushing herself because her body was just failing. Like, I kind of don't want Perez to go down a similar... No, I mean Kai. Like in season 2, Kai spent the whole season struggling with her injuries from the end of season 1. So what I don't want is that to just be rehashed with Perez grappling with her injuries from season 2 throughout season 3. Like, I hope that she just can recover, and maybe she has a little bit of dealing with it, but like, if she's able to just recover, and maybe that now Kai is either MIA or actually dead, Perez then kind of has this this leadership role that that kind of goes back to what we were talking about, where she kind of has this presence and kind of leading some sort of resistance on the ring or something.
I tell you what could be really cool if they're going in a completely different direction, and this is me absolutely just throwing it out there, right?
Just spitballing.
Yeah, with the end of season 1 or season 2 even, we know that Covenant reinforcements are inbound, but it also kind of feels like the Covenant and the UNSC fleets are quite damaged, right? And there's no real, it doesn't feel as if there's much recognizable iconography within the UNSC fleet in terms of there's no like ships where you sit there and think, oh, that's the Pillar of Autumn, or oh, that's the Forward Unto Dawn. I could actually really get behind reinforcements coming to support Chief in the form of the Spirit of Fire. I think it could be really cool seeing some of those characters integrated.
We could get reinforcements across all of our character roles as authority figures, our figures on the ground of power, like, you know, maybe some Spartans, maybe some ODSTs, you know, easily some Marines that are going to be cannon fodder. We don't have that iconography of ships. We don't really have any symbols of importance as far as the ships go, so it would be an easy way for them to throw a happy little Easter egg our way without having it be of any particular consequence.
And actually, I think it would be really interesting to see what kind of dynamic would the Chief have with Captain Cutter.
If it would even be Captain Cutter.
Yeah. Yeah, it probably wouldn't. It would be like Captain Shutter.
Shutter. Yeah, that could be interesting. Yeah, I'm just kind of thinking about those possibilities. Like, yeah, you could have this fleet come in and just be another new kid on the block and trying to, you know, actually think about this. Instead of Captain Cutter, what if we had a Captain Del Rio type of a dynamic?
That could be cool, yeah.
Chief is trying to do what he's trying to do on the ring, and Del Rio is like, no, we have to do this and get the resistance and all this kind of stuff. Well, you know, listen to me. And Chief's just like, no.
Chief's like, suck my resistance.
Yeah. I'm resisting the galaxy. I'm saving the galaxy, so...
Respectfully, sir, resist these nuts.
Yeah.
And then we go into a third season of Chief being against the authority figures.
Yeah. I mean, I think Chief's on his own agenda in this show.
I think at this point we need Chief to put a cloak on, and we need him to go walking through the desert looking for some random massive robot
maybe
thing
wearing
that
a
never
poncho
appears again. Yeah.
Dude, I would love Poncho Chief in season 3. I mean, and think about it, like, there's so many biomes on the Halo, so like
there's so many appropriate places for a poncho.
Yeah.
The caveat, right, would be that he doesn't have his helmet on in the poncho.
God damn it.
No, he doesn't have his helmet on, but he has like those giant, like almost snowboard sunglasses on. Like
big goggles.
Basically a visor. Yeah, the goggles.
The yellow orangey tint.
Yeah, so it's like these giant...
They forget to completely cover one of the logos on the strap in the prop department. There's just like part of the Alpine Stars logo showing.
Yeah, I think we're sorted. We're sorted.
Yeah.
When are we going to get our checks, Paramount?
Yeah. I mean, we know...
I want my payment!
The whole reason we're doing this show is so they can listen to it and they can just be like, oh yeah, these ideas, man.
In case the writers have to go on strike, we're doing it for them.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Paramount, I'm just saying, my Twitter DMs are open, you know?
The only other thing I really have is that I think it would be really, really cool if they have the budget for like a Scarab fight now that we're in the ring.
Yes.
But you know, I'm not really holding my breath for that. But that's
do we
that's kind of the
want our
last
Scarab fight now, or do we want to wait and get our Scarab fight when we get to Earth?
Oh,
for that Halo 2 moment.
That's a fair point.
I didn't even think
it would be good to
Earth.
hold it till then.
Are we ever going to make it to Earth in this show?
Yeah, I don't even know if we're going to make it to Earth.
Does Earth even exist?
I'm sure Earth exists.
That's a very existential question.
One of our listeners actually had that question in one of our shows. Was like, does Earth even exist? Like, there's been like no acknowledgement aside.
Oh no,
from,
yeah, we did.
Oh, there's these artifacts
because the lady in the shop was like, yeah,
yeah, that's what I mean.
That was what we
that's the
got.
only that's the only bit that we got. So it's like, is there a like modern Earth like in 2552?
Or is that lady
or did-
lying and it was just a way to sell a bunch of shit and Earth doesn't even exist?
Yeah.
So,
Or-
no. In this universe, right, Earth is just like Earth today, and that's mainly so if they happen to go to it, they can use vehicles and weapons from today.
Oh, so Earth's just locked in the past. Or
Yes,
Earth
yes,
is just locked in the
exactly.
21st century while everything
There's like
else is in the
Toyota
20th.
pickup trucks
wait, but that-
everywhere.
So the core colonies are stuck in the past, and then the inner colonies are all advanced and everything, and then the outer colonies are also stuck in the past because we had like 2000s Chevys in season 1 on Madrigal.
Yeah.
It's just like, some people have got time machines, some people haven't. It's a pretty minor plot point.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, minor's the word we'll use for that.
I think I would be okay with a scarab on Earth or on the ring if they go to Earth. I don't know. I just feel like if they're gonna have some sort of a big occupation and fight for the ring, I think it'd be cool to go all out. And I would love to see like almost like a Legolas fighting an elephant type of a sequence where Chief fights a scarab.
Yeah,
does his
that would be
flips
sick.
and his jumps, and I don't know.
But then, Oren, do you have faith in the CGI?
No, I don't. Not really.
You know what? I have faith in their like partial CGI that they do where they mix it in with practical effects. That's been pretty
Yeah.
solid, especially if they do the shaky cam thing but don't overdo it.
Yeah. So basically what we're saying is we want to see it, but there's like a 47% chance of it working.
Something like that.
Sounds fair. I mean, Oren, my question would be, do you really want a scarab when you could have a kraken?
I mean, hey, go big or go home, right? So
It's not always the size that matters, okay, guys? I just feel the need to put that out there.
Interesting turn of events.
Question about the flood. We kind of said that we feel that there will be some flood presence on the ring, but it's otherwise kind of just starting at Onyx. Like, do we think some type of grave mind exists somewhere, or do we think that this is kind of the birth of the reintroduction of the ring to where like a grave mind hasn't really formed yet?
Oh, I think Parangovsky's got to be the grave mind.
Yeah, I think Parangoski will factor into it, but I think there's something else in the fact that the researcher was dead when they already went into the room.
That is true. The researcher was clutching this device that had the spores, and we have no idea what that's all about.
No, so I think there's more to that we'll find out. Or it might just be ignored.
I mean, it's something that could just be as simple as like that researcher got left there and forgotten about and just kept the whole flood thingy contained as a symbol of importance. You know, the whole Halsey being like, it's her life's work.
Yeah, that is
I
very
don't know.
possible.
I don't know what I would do with that. It all kind of goes down to how deep you want to go with Onyx, because it's like...
That could mean two things considering what Onyx is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
a
I
world
don't know.
inside a world. I hope that there's more to it, but my gut feel is that they're going to just move on from it very quickly. As much as I don't want that, I just think that with the pace of the storytelling, because it feels like we kind of went from not even really having much about the ring to suddenly being on the ring quite quickly this season. So I feel like they will just be like, Onyx, the flood outbreak has happened, and now in season 3 the outbreak will be in other places as well, and that will be the extent of it. Maybe you have Chief going back to Onyx at some point to like destroy the Parangoski Gravemind instead of the Keys one, but I don't know if I see it playing much more of a role beyond that.
I mean, that's all we really need it to be at this point. Like, we don't even need Onyx to be the shield world that it is in
Yeah.
the core canon because it's just so easy for them to introduce more anyway.
Yeah.
If we're saying Parangoski's becoming the Grave Mind, I would want her as the Grave Mind to commandeer a ship and then crash land to the ring and somehow have that encounter be on the ring as opposed to being on Onyx. Because, like, the idea of Chief leaving the ring to save the galaxy from the threat of the ring, like, just kind of just doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah, no, I get that.
So, and I don't know if we really want to introduce the arc at all, but I guess we could.
I don't know, unless we get Chief has to destroy the ring to stop the Covenant from taking it, and then goes to Onyx to stop the Flood.
Mm.
Because now he doesn't have a ring to fire to stop the Flood. He's like, fine, I'll fucking do it myself.
I mean, you could recreate. What if Onyx just gets so overgrown with Flood and infested that now you're basically doing the Cortana mission from Halo 3 where Chief has to save.
But on a planet, yeah.
Chief has to save Halsey and Miranda and has to navigate through like a Flood overgrown.
That could be pretty cool.
I mean, that ties in all of our characters where they are now. That ties in our locations. We hit the beats we need to hit.
But also, you could take what is kind of considered the worst Halo mission, which I don't really agree with,
and make it a great show. Make it a great, good half of an episode.
I'm gonna throw a spanner in the works here, guys, and I'm conscious that you probably want to wrap this up soon, Oren, but I do have a question for you. What and this isn't me jumping back in the host seat. I don't want that seat back, so stay there.
No, you're there.
But
no, I already put out my lawn chair and I have my little tiki drink.
Just what do we think the Didact would think of humanity causing a flood outbreak like this?
I feel like we're not ready for the Didact.
We need more of the librarian first.
Yeah.
But, like, I think we need the season to unfold for Chief to learn about the Forerunners. Maybe we do... I could see us meeting the librarian in Season 3. But I feel like the Didact at the earliest would be, like, a Season 4 antagonist.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because I think... Season 3, I think, is going to be, like, so much of the Flood. Like, I think they're going to just put a bunch of resources and props and costumes and makeup and vis effects into Flood resources so then they can replicate it and reuse it and use it for the duration of the season. And, you know, maybe they do a similar thing at the end of Season 3 where they kind of introduce the threat for Season 4. So, like, maybe once they solve the Flood, they awaken the Didact. And so then, you know, I could see them doing something like that. But I think they would need to go into the Forerunner history into a decent amount of, not a decent amount, but like they just need the seeds, you know, like the seeds of the Flood were laid in the last episode. So like if we get the librarian, we get some terminal like or even just conversations from the Monitor that kind of talk about the Forerunners and the Forerunner Flood War, then maybe we get the Didact. And maybe we get a thing to where, like, oh, this Didact is this great warrior, and this warrior fought the Flood and all this kind of stuff. And Chief's like, oh, well, I want that guy to fight with me to fight the Flood. And then they wake him up, and he's like, oh, well, actually, he's, like, this terrible person.
Yeah.
Didact. Actually.
So yeah, I that would be my sort of take on a Didact coming into the show. But I think it would be a badass like costume and like character if they do it right.
Yeah.
Like to kind of be, you know, this...
The question would just be timeline.
I think they'd have to get that person who did the life-size cosplay.
I know which one you're talking about.
There was someone who did a life-size cosplay of the Didact?
Yes, and it was incredible because it like lit up.
It had like all these articulating like panel pieces, if I remember right.
It was insane.
I'm gonna look this up.
I guess the question really would be the timeline for that, because our timeline
Yes.
for like Didact and Banished stuff gets a little weird if we're looking at like the creation of the Banished versus when Chief starts to encounter them. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because really we get the Banished in Halo Wars is when we're like properly dealing with them before we deal with them as Chief. So it's like, do we get some sort of Halo Wars-esque season, or does it just all blend together? In which case, where do we shoehorn the Didact in between the Banished, like
Yeah.
becoming a thing and then becoming the greater threat?
I think that's exactly why I find it interesting asking those questions, because I think, to your point, Steve, the timeline of the show is so much more convoluted than the timeline of the games, in the sense that it feels like it's already pulling a lot of bits and pieces from different points in the timeline and making them all happen at the same time. So that's where I'm interested as to how they approach that in the future. Like, do they choose to pull things from even further afield in the timeline and suddenly make it all happen at the same time? I think it's going to be interesting just seeing how they continue to approach that, I think.
As long as they do keep approaching it, like, I'm okay with them just pulling bits of lore as long as they work, even if it means putting the whole timeline in a blender. It just needs to be cohesive.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't mind them pulling and choosing and merging and leaving some things out, as long as it's cohesive. That's why like if the Banished were still like a part of the Covenant or something like that, like the point I made earlier, like I think that's an effective way to kind of merge these two things to kind of accelerate its relevance into the story, so then it doesn't have to pan out, because we all want it to be as close to the lore as we can, but like they're not going to do it because they haven't done it in the past two seasons, really. So
Season 3, retcon.
Yeah.
Season 2 is a soft reboot. Get ready for the hard reboot.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, I think we are kind of reaching the tail end. Before we get to some community suggestions, I just wanted to open the floor up to you two again. Like, anything you guys wanted to kind of double up on, or something, another just random thought that you had, or another final thing about what you either want or maybe what you think we're going to see for the season 3 before we start wrapping things up.
I agree with you. Oh, go ahead, Steve.
I was just going to say, regardless of how we get there, I just really, really, really want to see John punch in the face of flood-infected Parangowski.
Yeah.
We need that Keys moment. We need like that little bit of perspective from Parangowski's face of Chief's fist, slightly fisheye lens, like the meme.
Let me ask you this. Would you also want Chief punching the Prophet of Regret?
Absolutely. He needs to regret getting punched in the goddamn face by Master Chief.
Okay, great. Or was that Regret? Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
I was going to go in a very different direction and say, Oran, I'm with you, but I hope that Spartan Kai is still alive, because Spartan Kai can stomp on me.
Yeah, I think...
Or sit.
Stomp. Wow.
Yeah, I will be very sad if Kai does not come back. And I even would be okay if Kai got the Miranda treatment from season 2, where she's just gone for a while and then she just kind of reappears. And then there's a little bit of an explanation as to why that we probably won't get, because the show doesn't explain things like that. But I think...
You say you'd be okay with that, and then all next season you're going to spend every episode going with, and we still haven't seen Kai yet.
Yeah.
Where's Kai?
Touche.
You know him too well, Steve.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I did that for like 6 episodes, and then she finally shows up. Well, the thing is that if her name is in the opening credits, then yes, I will say that. And it's like, hey, Kate Kennedy is in the credits, but we don't see her. Where is she? So yes, you got me on that one. But yeah, we'll see. I would love for Kai to come back. I think I kind of hit every point that I kind of want. Oh, actually, something we didn't talk about, the monitor, whether it's 343
Yes.
or not. We'll kind of end talking with the monitor. So I liked the direction that they're going. I mean, we got a little bit of a tease. I wasn't a fan of like the flash forward sort of like narrative device, but in terms of what we got with the monitor, it's definitely kept me intrigued, and I'm just curious how that monitor's role is going to kind of unfold, because it seems that the monitor has both McKee and Chief here to have some sort of control of the ring. There's also the outbreak that's going on. In past games, the monitor is very much on the minds of, oh, I've been waiting 100,000 years for someone to come here and activate the ring. We need to go activate it, and we get all these different things. So I guess I just really want the monitor to kind of give us the knowledge and the info dump of the ring, and to kind of show and kind of be the steward of the ring and be like, this is everything, guys. Take a look. Like, is there anything you guys want from the monitor?
No, and I think along with that, it's not just that he's an exposition dump, but like the monitor's gonna be McKee's companion in some way, shape, or another, because Chief does need to face resistance. So he's gonna be our opposing force, I think, at least a little bit. I don't think we're just gonna get Chief fighting Covenant, because he's inside Forerunner structure now with McKee before anybody else got there. So for him to make it through a whole bunch of bullshit and get beat up, he's probably going to have to fight some Sentinels.
Yeah. No,
Chief and McKee might just get it on.
No, Tom.
Yeah, but she's not strong enough to do that much damage to his armor.
True.
If she was, she'd have been throwing down, fighting hard in earlier seasons, or not, because you know what? Maybe while she's working her way through this dark hallway, she becomes an assassin in an unspeakable manner, because that seems to be a thing in this show.
Yeah.
They did that to Quan. Maybe Quan and McKee have a showdown on who the better assassin is.
And then Quan gets killed and comes back to life in season 4.
No longer able to talk to the planet mother.
Yeah.
Perfect storytelling.
Yeah. All right. Well, groovy. Well, I think that will about do it for us. Tom, since you're the host, do you want to read our community inputs?
Oh boy. Yeah, so from Reclaimer X with a 3 instead of an E, we have Season 3 will be a mix of events from CE and Halo 2.
That's Nathan,
Miranda
by the
will
way.
get saved by the Sentinels on Onyx, Chief will meet the Gravemind on the Halo, and the season will end with them discovering the Ark.
Okay. I can see his first and second points. Meeting the Gravemind on the Halo, I'm just not sure. It just really depends on how 343 and the showrunners want to evolve the flood. Evolved.
Yeah.
You said the thing.
And because it's like, I could see like a dormant Gravemind being on the ring and then just kind of gets awoken. But on the same sort of other end of that, I could also just see the Gravemind being kind of reborn, because at least what I got from this season finale is that like the Covenant or the flood threat was like eradicated, and this spore is the thing that was kind of unleashed. And I guess that's what happened in the games to a degree, but and it almost seemed that like there was like a vault that the Marines just kind of opened and let them in. But yeah, what's your idea, Steve?
So just what if the firing of the Halos didn't completely eradicate the flood, and there's always just leftover bits, so we get these installations like Onyx where scientists have contained whatever's left of the flood. It's too small to risk firing the Halo rings again, so their job is to just keep this bit contained. And that's what Miranda and Halsey stumbled upon.
Okay.
That could be interesting, actually.
Maybe the early Halos didn't have their power dialed in just right, or one of them was damaged and didn't completely eradicate everything. Like, there's just a reason for a little teeny tiny bit of flood to have survived the last firing.
Yeah. Because like even like the rings don't always kill the flood. It just kills their
Yeah, it
food
kills
and
the
stuff
food.
too. So there very well could be some flood out there that's just been dormant and like have managed to not starve. So yeah, I'd buy that. Just those last few pockets.
Yeah, it's interesting that we're focusing on the flood as well, because actually that's a big point of Matt's point. So wonderful Mr. Regret, who says that it turns into a horror show and the flood are grotesque monsters. But then what makes me laugh is he also says, and McKee is killed off screen because the writers don't know how to build her into the plot.
Oh no, we could easily have her wiped out on screen. All it takes is for the monitor to take one statement she says the wrong way and start blasting.
Oh man,
That's
that
it.
would
It's
be...
like 5 minutes into episode 1, she says the wrong thing to the monitor.
McKee could just be Johnson, guys, and just gets killed by the laser.
There we
McKee
go.
knows what the ladies like? Question mark.
We're sold.
I think Matt's being a little facetious with his like horror show and grotesque, but I do think that like the more horror and like scary and grotesque elements they're able to push, because I think at the end of the day they still want this to be, I guess, acceptable to watch from like a general audience. But yeah, the more they push that envelope, the better. In my opinion. So yeah, I think there is some truth in there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Then the last community comment we have is from Master Beef. And Master Beef says they do what they did to season 1 and act like season 2 never happened, completely ignoring the plot corners they wrote themselves into, Captain Key's dead, Halsey infected, etc., and move into another piece of blended up lore. They probably find the Gravemind who steals Cortana, corrupts her, and he has Cortana attack the UNSC. She tries to take the ring, and you have a weird mix of Combat Evolved, Halo 2, Halo 5, and Infinite. I mean, I'd be into it.
Interesting.
That could happen, which is kind of crazy. Yeah, that's not a bad prediction.
It's a lot to
I'd
process.
vibe with it. Steve, if you need a minute, it's okay.
I always need a minute with this series, but it's fine. I will somehow and unexplainably survive.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do what I always do best as the host of Halo TV Plus, and that is to pass the outro to my dear guest Oren. So Oren, would you like to do the outro this time around?
I would love to. Well, thank you all for joining, listeners. Tom, Steve, this was great. This is the last episode of Halo TV Plus for Season 2. We will go on a hiatus, much like the TV show is going on hiatus right now, and we will return when Season 3 draws near. If there are any relevant news or, I don't know, something that pops up that warrants a new episode, or rather the first episode of our Series 3, then we'll bring that to you guys on your podcast feeds. But just wanted to throw this out there at the end that there will not be any new episodes for the foreseeable future, but we aren't going away forever, and we will continue to cover the show as the show gets released. So keep the subscribe button lit, and if you are, like I said at the top of the show, just joining us, we have about 40 episodes of this podcast covering Season 1 and Season 2. You can dive into all of those at your leisure, because all of Season 1 and Season 2 are available on Paramount Plus right now. You can just subscribe and watch them. There is also a behind-the-scenes show, a Halo after-show segment called Halo the Series Declassified, that dives into some character interview or actor interviews of their characters, some other behind the scenes like props, special effects, art department, stunts, lore, makeup, you name it. They really cover all the different aspects that it takes to make a TV show, and each episode is kind of tailored to the episode of the show, so you could check out those. Those are also like 10 to 15 minutes. And then if that's not enough Halo TV content to get a hold of, at Halo Waypoint, Alex Wakeford releases a Silver debriefing blog post that recaps the story of each episode in detail and serves as a hub for additional show-related content. All of his blogs are up on Halo Waypoint if you've missed them. Again, they kind of recap it, so if you watch the episode, to me, about half of the blog post is kind of just a rehash of that, but he does have some core connections which are interesting to read, and then he'll drop some other tidbits and news or things to look out for. So definitely recommend giving those at least a good glance. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, you can find every episode to all of the shows that Evolved produces on our website, evolvedhalo.co or halopodcast.com. Don't forget to check us out on our social media. We have Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube, and I think we also have TikTok or Snapchat. Once again, another special shout out to all of our patrons for supporting Evolved. Thank you guys so much. You guys are awesome. Head over to patreon.com/HaloEvolved to learn more if you're not a patron and want to subscribe. If you like this show or love this show, rate us, leave a review. Greatly appreciate all the feedback that we receive from our listeners to improve the quality, especially going into season 3. If there's any suggestions on how to make it better or things that maybe weren't as good, if you guys want some feedback on, I'm definitely going to be looking at that as we propel ourselves into future seasons for you guys. So just let me know. And lastly, if you want to reach out to us to have a comment or opinion on the show, or just reach out to us a little bit more directly, you can leave us an email at podcastevolved@gmail.com or a voicemail on our Google phone number 205-EVOLVED, which is 205-386-5833. And with that, everybody, I have been your host, Oren, not Tom. And until next time, evolve.
Tom's host forever.